This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is February 3rd, 2025. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, the trade deadline is upon us. We are all of a sudden barreling towards the trade deadline.
I'm confused. How can today be February 3rd when Saturday night was April 1st? It was like April Fool's. I thought it was April Fool's Day. When the Shams tweet went out with the Luka trade. Jonathan, what in the world?
If you have been living under a rock, or maybe, I don't know, you were hiking or camping this past weekend and you're not on social media, Luka Doncic Saturday night was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers because, of course, why wouldn't it be the Lakers? For Anthony Davis and one first-round pick, and there were some players involved, and for some reason the Mavs also had to throw in a second-round pick into that deal to make everything happen. But, yeah, so I was reading, which I don't really do a lot of. I was reading, for any of those of you out there watching Silo on Apple TV, I finished the second season. I was like, I have to know what happened. So I started reading for the first time in forever. So I was reading the first book of Silo for like 40 minutes. I put the book down. I'm getting ready to go to bed. I pick up my phone and I see the notifications. I see the texts and everything, and just genuine shock. Like, jaw hit the floor. Spent the next hour and a half scrolling through Twitter, reading everybody else reacting and seeing the videos and all of that kind of stuff. But yes, one of the absolute, I don't think that I have been this shocked by anything in the NBA since the night that Utah Jazz Oklahoma City Thunder game got canceled in OKC when COVID shut down the entire league and like the NBA shut. I have not been this genuinely and thoroughly shocked since then, Kevin. You weren't even awake. You woke up to this morning. Tell me what that was like.
I didn't wake up to this morning. Well, technically, yes. I woke up to it after I got, 9 million texts. My phone just went off and off and off. So it was, before 1 a.m., right? It was 12 something. So I was like half asleep, and I like my eyes, and I read it, but that was just like, I literally, Jonathan, what went through my head was, I literally cannot comprehend this right now. I just have to go back to sleep. Like I couldn't wrap my brain around it enough. And I also knew if I like fully wake up, I'm never going to go back to sleep. So I was like, I can't deal with this right now. But then I had to wake up early this morning. So I got up at, just after 5 a.m. And that's when I started reading all the details. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Can't believe it. It's we're recording this Sunday night. It's 8:53. This thing has been around for 20 hours now, and I still I cannot believe it. It doesn't feel real, and I know I'm not the only person that feels that way. I think most people feel that way. It's just hard to believe. Really, that's where I am.
I think it's genuinely the biggest NBA trade of my lifetime. I can't think of another deal where I was this absolutely floored that it happened.
Biggest, I don't know. Maybe it is. It's got to be up there. Certainly the most shocking, though, to me. Like there have been other trades that have been really big, but they were for players that we knew wanted out, right? Like we've had some huge. Like think about like the Kevin Durant trade, like the Paul George deal. Like those, I know they're not maybe the same situation. Luka's 25, and
I'm also meaning like player for player. Like usually
right.
It's things that we don't know if they're going to materialize for 5 to 7 years.
Sure.
This is like all NBA guy for all NBA guy. And
right.
Almost the middle of the night, nobody had any idea. A beloved player in Luka, like right. All things considered, it's hard to top this one.
And again, the shock factor comes when like nobody knew this was coming. Like there was not even a whisper of, hey, Luka might be dealt, or hey, Luka might not be happy, or hey, the Mavs aren't happy with Luka. Like Nothing about that. Like the other part to me, like a deal like this, like you said, for two, top level guys. Obviously, Luka is, top 5, top 3 player in the league. AD's, top 15, however you want to put him, right? A deal like this feels like it happens in the off season. For this to happen in February is crazy. It's crazy. And it's 2 playoff teams too, right? Like it's not like a team, tonight there was another deal that happened, the Chicago Bulls, right? That's a team that they dealt Zach Lavine is what I'm getting at. That's a team that's like borderline playoffs. You just wonder if, they're mailing it in, they're blowing it up. It's not even that, right? Like Dallas was in the finals last year. Is their record great right now? No. The Lakers are playing their best basketball they've played all season long right now. They just beat the Knicks last night at MSG, Saturday night at MSG. So all these pieces combined is what just makes it go, what in the world? It's definitely the most shocking deal in NBA history. I don't think it's close.
If you haven't heard our show before, we actually are an Orlando Magic podcast. But Kevin and I, talking about this trade earlier today, we were just saying this is such a big deal. It's so historic. It shifts the landscape of the NBA and kind of makes you rethink who is untouchable and who isn't, and like what trades are possible. So we're going to talk about this a good bit, and I know there's some other talking points that I know that I want to get to, but I want to call a quick timeout here to talk about something pretty special, something that has now become one of my favorite times of the year, and something that I hadn't heard a ton about until just the last couple of days. The Duvin drop that we've gotten the last 3 seasons. The Duvin, they do a collaboration with the Orlando Magic, and it's a local Orlando fashion company. They do like t-shirts, they do like a lot of beach apparel, but they just put out a collection every year with the Orlando Magic that they always go crazy with. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Kevin and myself are wearing a couple of the items from the latest collection here. I've got the Welcome to the Arena, the stuff tee that I'm wearing, and Kev is wearing one of the sickest Orlando Magic golf polos it's not really a golf polo. It's like a knit polo.
Keep talking. I'm going to stand up and show them the bottom because the bottom's pretty sick too.
Perfect. Yeah, go ahead and do that. But so we're just super pumped about this latest collection as Kevin is showing the polo. It's got the old Orlando Magic logo on it, the Duvin palm trees. It's just really sharp looking. If you guys want to see more about this collection, obviously we posted to our social media accounts, and they are doing an online pre-sale. It's going to be for pickup only, so it's a pre-sale, but you do have to pick up the items in person. So on Monday at 10 a.m., so today as you're listening to this at 10 a.m., you can go to orlando-magic-team-store.square.site, and from 10 a.m. to basically 12 p.m. on Tuesday, and then they're doing a launch event on the 7th, which is Friday, which is going to be a pickup order. You can pick up your order that you pre-ordered, or you can purchase things that are for sale that didn't go in the pre-sale. You can just hang out if you want. That's going to be from 4 to 10 at the Great Southern Box Company. And again, you can buy in person, or you can buy in person at Kia Center on Saturday at the Magic Team Shop from 11 to 4. And then Saturday night during the game, starting at 5:30 through the end of the game. If you have a ticket to the game when the Magic play the Spurs, you already have to have that. So a few different ways to get that, but we just appreciate the whole Duvin team for sending Kevin and I some pieces from this collection. We're super stoked about it. And again, you can find all this information on social media. We'll also put a link in the description for the podcast and the YouTube, but just wanted you all to see that and know that is coming, because I know people get excited for that every year, Kev.
First off, for those that saw the violent, crash behind me, stuff from my shelf fell, so I had to grab the foam finger, put that on. The jacket in this collection is outrageous. Like everything's great, of course, right? The shirts, like I'm wearing this polo shirt, like all this kind of stuff. The jacket is out. It's so sick. Like it's really cool. So I'm fired up about that. So yeah, big shout out to Duvin. Obviously, you guys know we love supporting local businesses, local brands, and it's really cool that Duvin, a local company, is partnering with the Magic for a 3rd season. So yeah, big shout out to Duvin.
Yeah. So again, we're going to talk more about this Luka Doncic trade. If you're somebody that doesn't care about the Doncic trade, you just want to hear Orlando Magic talk, you're going to want to skip ahead a little bit. We'll put timestamps in the YouTube description so that you can just skip ahead if you're watching there. But Kevin, what I feel like what is most shocking, other than the fact of Luka just being traded in general, but just the return from the Dallas Mavericks, right? Again, we're talking about Anthony Davis. I believe it's Max Christie, and it's a first round pick. It's like a 2029 first round pick or something like 29. That. But when you hear the initial reasoning from Nico Harrison last night that they believe that defense wins championships, and Anthony Davis is a player that can help them win now and also help them in the long term. But then today, during the press conference with Nico Harrison and head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, Jason Kidd, when Nico Harrison talks about the long term, he admits that he's talking about the next 3 to 4 years, not the next 5 to 10 years like you would typically think of the long term. And then he joked that, him and Jason Kidd may not even be around in 8 to 10 years or whatever the case may be. And as more information comes out, like in the moment, everybody, I did not see a single person on social media or in the NBA media space that was a fan of this trade for the Mavericks. Everyone was saying this might be the worst trade in NBA history, which is crazy when you think about the fact that they are getting a guy like Anthony Davis back. But then when you also hear that they didn't talk to any other team about this deal at all, that it was literally just the Lakers, it just does not make sense. Everybody agrees that they could have gotten a far better return, 50 picks. Like, you name your price. You go to any team in the league and you name your price and you're going to get what you want. And yet they settle for this. Luka didn't ask for a trade. That's been made very apparent. He was blindsided by the entire thing. He didn't know about the trade until after it was already finalized. Like, this is just the most bizarre. It feels like they took a nuclear bomb to the Dallas Mavericks. What a betrayal of the fan base. It's really just, there's so many elements of this that are so fascinating and shocking.
That's what I was going to say. There's so many layers to this. First, to speak to what you're talking about as far as the return, it's like, I mean, even think back to the summer. Like, think about Mikal Bridges. Like, I mean, what was that, like 5 picks? Like 4 first, 5 first, something like that? Not to mention the players they got back. That was just 6 months ago, 7 months ago, whatever it's been now. I don't know. Like, the fact that they didn't open up the market for Luka is the part that just bothers me the most. It's not just bothers me. It's the shadiest part of all of this to me. Like, there are people that think there's conspiracy theories, and but before this, I'm saying there's people that always think there's conspiracy theories and things are rigged in sports and in the NBA and all those kinds of things. And when moments like this happen, you understand why, right? Like, you're actually telling me that there's a general manager of an NBA team that thinks it is in the best interest of that team to, number one, shop the best player, a top 3 player in the league who's 25 years old. But number 2, shop it to one team. How does that make sense? Right? Like, I don't care what you're shopping for. If you're making a big purchase in life, you never just go get one price. You don't do that. You're buying a car, you don't just get one price. You're even if you are selling your car, you get multiple prices for it, right? Like, that's just common sense. If you're doing a big financial transaction in just personal life, much less if you are offloading, again, a top 3 player in the league who is 25 years old, you get multiple offers. So for him to not do that, but also just straight up publicly admit it, like, that's the part that blows my mind.
Like, he's proud of it.
That's the part I can't believe it. Like, especially because, this happened, like we said, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. He had, over 12 hours between when that happened and all the initial reactions until the press conference that happened Sunday afternoon. Like, you don't think maybe all these things that he heard over those 12-ish hours, he'd go, let me think about what I'm going to say here. Let me be smart. No, he just flat out says, no, I only talk to the Lakers. Again, this is why I feel like this is not real life. Like, that makes no sense. Like, the fact that there are 7 billion people in the world, and everyone I've seen, literally everyone, thinks this is a bad deal for Dallas. And somehow the Dallas Mavericks, of the 7 billion people in the world, they hired the one person that thought this was a good idea. I don't understand.
That he's still so confident and adamant that it was the right thing. Like, if I made a decision and the entire world was laughing at me and calling me an idiot, there's no chance that I wouldn't even have showed up to that press conference.
Yeah.
I would just be like, when everybody is telling you you're wrong, but you like the gall that it takes to just, I would love to have that type of self-confidence in myself that I don't care what all these other, it's definitely something. It's definitely a lack of something, but for everybody in the world to be telling you how dumb you are and you're like, no, I'm the smart one. That takes a special level of stupid. And it genuinely does. And the one more thing that was so funny from that press conference is him giving Rob Pelinka credit for keeping all this under wraps. Yeah, no, duh, he kept under wraps. Why would he tell anyone and have word get out? And then all of a sudden you've got the Spurs and all these other teams calling and giving you way better offers.
Every other team.
You just want Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first-round pick? Yeah, I think we can get that done.
Yeah,
the idea that
safe with me.
The Lakers had to like mull this over and think about it, I don't buy that for a second. And if you offer somebody something like that's really important, really valuable to you, and you ask them for something that you think is like super valuable to them that they would never say yes to, and without a moment's hesitation, they say absolutely. You have to sit there and think about what you're doing and decide whether or not it is actually a good idea. There are just so many, again, the more information that comes out about this, it makes it more and more unbelievable. It has to be collusion. There has to be some type of fraudulence that is happening here. And at the beginning, he said when he went to the Mavericks owner, the first time that he mentioned it, he was laughed at. That should have been your cue to be like, you know what, maybe this isn't a good idea. And the fact that he was able to talk the Mavs ownership into doing this is so, and we haven't even talked about what it means for Mavericks fans yet.
Well, that's the other part I was going to say is like he convinced the owner of this, right? Like it's, how? Like I don't understand that. Like I really don't. The other person, I personally, Jonathan, as we sit here after 9 o'clock on Sunday, I have not read or heard anything about, like, from Mark Cuban. Have you heard anything?
I haven't. I've looked at his Twitter probably 2 or 3 times today waiting for it. I cannot really believe it.
Just in case people are out of the loop, Mark Cuban sold the majority share of his ownership in the Dallas Mavericks, like, a year ago, maybe. I mean, it hasn't been that long. It's been relatively recent. It's been within the last 2 years.
Year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, it's been within the last 2 years. So there's still people on Twitter saying, how could Mark Cuban allow this, blah, blah, blah. Mark Cuban more than likely did not get a say in this. Yeah. That's the part that's very interesting. Mark Cuban publicly said just a few years ago, he would divorce his wife before he would trade Luka Doncic.
I have the quote right in front of me.
Yeah, back when he was the owner of the Mavericks, he said that. So I don't think Mark Cuban had anything to do with this. I genuinely believe Mark Cuban is stunned. I refuse to believe he had any idea about this, and I'm just looking forward to that reaction. And that reaction might be, hey, I'm giving away the rest of my shares. Like, you can have it. I don't have anything to do with this.
I would not be shocked whatsoever to hear that he sells his remaining shares, his minority ownership of the team. I would be trying to distance myself from this and that entire franchise as fast as humanly possible. And I don't blame the Mavericks fans that are just completely done.
Nope.
That was almost like immediate impact and reaction from this is just hundreds, if not thousands, of Mavericks fans either just being completely out, like in the moment, or like strongly considering whether or not they could continue going on. If this was me, if we found out, and like, I love Paolo, I love Franz, like they're incredible players, and they're not at that level just yet. I think they can get pretty close to that level. If those guys ever got to that level and this deal was made, I genuinely think we would do a reaction pod and I would be done. I don't know if you would want to continue. You'd be more than welcome to find somebody else. I don't think I would have it in me to continue rooting for a team that so obviously, one, has no idea what they're doing in running a basketball team and really trying to be successful for a long time, and also doesn't understand and doesn't value the fans who, as a reminder, are the reason that everything happens. They're the reason that the lights are on, right?
Yep.
I don't blame a single soul who, and you and I have been very critical about like, oh, how fans should react in certain situations and all that kind of stuff. And I hate when people, they root for this team and then the team isn't very good, for a while. They jump to another team and so on and so forth. I genuinely cannot fault anyone who their reaction to this is to just be done with the Dallas Mavericks, be done with the NBA. Or even if you're a Mavs fan yesterday, today you're a Lakers fan, I get it. Like, I cannot imagine what I would do to be in a similar situation.
Yeah, I'd be right there with you. I'd be so done. Like, I truly cannot imagine. The other part of this, there's a lot of parts of this. The part that I think is actually going to be the most detrimental to the Dallas Mavericks, other than not having Luka forever, the other part is I don't know how players, whether it's free agents or even draft picks, which we've seen draft picks start to steer their way to certain teams or away from certain teams. I don't know how anyone chooses to go play for Dallas right now. Like, if this is how you treat the most talented player in the history of your franchise. Yeah, Dirk is the greatest player in the franchise history, was there the longest, won a title, all those things. Luka is more talented than Dirk. And oh yeah, he's 25. If this is how you treat the most talented player in the history of your franchise, a player you drafted, a player who, that we know of, has zero desire to leave Dallas. He put out a statement today saying he thought he would play his whole career in Dallas. If that is the kind of loyalty you show, look out. Because again, free agents, they notice this stuff. Future draft picks, they notice this stuff. And so I think this could really bite them in the tail in just about every facet of the sport, which, again, that's not even including the whole Luka thing. Like the fact that they don't have Luka Doncic. They have Anthony Davis, who is 30, and oh yeah, he's also one of the most injury-prone players on the planet. So if you're trading away a Luka because you're concerned about his health, like, anyway, that's, again, a whole nother layer to this. But I just think this is bad on every front for the Mavericks, and it's still hard to believe.
This episode is brought to you by Jam Hot Chicken in one of, if not our very favorite segment of every week, the Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week, where we take the best Magic dunk from the last week and talk about it, and we'll talk a little Jam Hot Chicken. Although, yes, it was a tough week for the Orlando Magic, and there were a ton of highlights. We do have this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week, and it is Jonathan Isaac against the Portland Trailblazers. Going back, the Magic were up 31-23 in the first quarter before everything started to go sideways. 124 left in the quarter. Cole Anthony pulls up from the right wing for a three. It's no good. It bounces off the rim, off the backboard. It looks like it is bouncing to the Portland Trailblazers, but Jonathan Isaac raises up, grabs it, outstretched with the left hand, one hand, and jammed that back down to give the Magic a 10-point lead over the Portland Trailblazers. And that was kind of the moment in the game where everything started to go downhill for the Magic. So for a lot of reasons, unfortunately, this is the Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week this week. Hopefully next week it will come in a win. But as we talk about our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken, they're bringing jams, culture, and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. They're an Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated over there in Winter Park, Florida, located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. Be sure to follow them at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media and head on over to jamhotchickenfl.com to access their menu, online ordering, and all things Jam Hot. Can also order them on Uber Eats if you're local to Winter Park, don't want to leave the house. You want to get Jam Hot Chicken delivered right to your door. Pull out your phone, go to your Uber Eats app, and get you some Jam Hot Chicken. Not only is it some of the best chicken you will ever taste, but they're massive Magic fans. They love this team. They love the community. They love this fan base. So do us a favor. Head on over to Jam Hot Chicken. Tell them that we sent you.
The Six Man Show is also brought to you by Only Franz, Magic Kid 714, ESPN Really Sucks, Bobby Skinner, and Joshua Beckett. You're thinking, what is that? Those are a bunch of random phrases and names. And well, those are 5 of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons on patreon.com/The Six Man Show. Those are some of the people that financially support The Six Man Show. We have a lot of different tiers that are available that start as low as $2 a month, where you can literally just say, hey, you know what? I believe in the mission of The Six Man Show, which is to grow the Orlando Magic fan base and extend this community. I believe in it so much, I'm going to financially support the show and help them make all of these things possible. And so if you would like to do that, if you'd like to join those 5 and the many others that we have, again, patreon.com/The Six Man Show. Check out the different tiers and the different benefits that come with each. Choose one that's right for you. And again, help our cause of growing this Orlando Magic fan base and continuing to put out content that, you know, is kind of engaging and promoting this team and promoting the fan base. And so again, patreon.com/The Six Man Show. Go ahead and check it out. And now let's get back to the episode.
And in case you're not super tapped into kind of what was unfolding and what everyone's thinking was as we were trying to rationalize this trade when it first happened, like there were reports coming out that, you know, maybe they were upset with his conditioning, or there was behind the scenes stuff, or maybe he had requested a trade, or maybe they didn't want to pay him the Supermax, all that kind of stuff. Like, Kevin, what are your thoughts? Like, even if Luka wasn't going to get better, like let's say he had already reached his peak, I'm still taking that for the next 7 to 10 years over, especially like over almost any return that you could possibly get. Like, this is unarguably like a top 5 dude in the league. Like, could the Mavs, you know, built around him a little bit better? And, you know, I mean, they made it to the finals last year. Sure, they got waxed, but like, you just have such a big window with a player like that who is seemingly only going to get better, right? And you have to ask yourself as a franchise, like, if we are concerned about his conditioning, what are we doing wrong that is not really getting through to this kid to help him reach his full potential, right? I don't know that anybody is arguing his potential, but maybe the Dallas Mavericks, like, obviously they believe that Anthony Davis can help them get somewhere that Luka can't. And it's just the craziest thing in the world. Everybody's saying, I don't care if Luka's 500 pounds. You don't trade this kid. He is, or this guy, he's that good.
Yeah, I think it was Bill Simmons who was saying he could smoke a cigarette while he's.
It was Ryan Russillo on that podcast.
Yeah, he could be smoking a cigarette while he's bringing the ball at the court. I'm still paying him $350 million. Like,
somebody said that he could be shooting up Ozempic and downing a shot of Grey Goose during warm-ups, and they're still not trading him.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and here's like, when it comes to like the fan perspective again, it's even if let's say you can justify it basketball wise. Let's say whether it's this trade or some other trade that they thought they could send off Luka Doncic and improve their chances to win a championship this season. Which, by the way, that's a good basketball team in Dallas. Like, add Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, they got Clay, they got Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford and the whole thing. Like, it's a good basketball team. Let's say they go on and make a miraculous run and win the NBA championship this season. Is that worth it? Is that worth being dragged through the mud? Is that worth throwing away like your loyalty and your dignity and your like pride? Like, is all of that worth it? I don't even know that it is. which is what's crazy to me. Like, obviously the goal of every team, of every fan base, is to win a title. But there's always a measure, like, at what cost? Like, was this worth it? And not a Mavericks fan, but as I sit here, I would argue it's not. Now, if that team goes on and wins 3 in a row or something, now maybe. But you gave up so much. I don't even just mean like on paper, like roster stuff. You gave up truly, like, your dignity, like your loyalty, your all these things, and I'm not sure that any of it's going to be worth it.
Like, I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like, if we look at the MLB, you cannot tell me that what the Dodgers are doing is more satisfying and fulfilling than like the Braves winning a title a few years ago with Freddie Freeman, right? Like, you cannot compare the two. It literally feels like they've sold they sold their soul. Like, the soul of the team, of the city, of the franchise was Luka Doncic, and they sold him to the Los Angeles Lakers. And I've seen multiple Mavs fans tweet out today that even if we win a title, like, they don't necessarily care. Like, sure, it makes things a little bit better, but it will, like, I think some people were saying, like, it'll feel like 10% of what winning a title with Luka Doncic would be. And if we were in a similar situation, I think I would feel the exact same way. Like, what we've been building here with Franz and Paolo and Jalen and all these other guys, like, I mean, we've never seen a title. So if you could guarantee me a title, like, that changes things. But this is like, I don't think the Mavs, I didn't have them as necessarily like true contenders. I felt like they still had a lot of improving to do to be put in that conversation. But I don't think this really pushes them that much closer to winning a title this year, if at all. It may not get them any closer to winning a title this year. So I just don't know I don't know what the hell Nico Harrison is thinking in making this move in ownership. And then to just outright come out and say, like, hey, our goal is to win a title in the next 3 to 4 years. And we have now mortgaged the next 10 years of our future, 10 plus years. And having another guy, like, people underrate what that means to fans, to have a guy who played in one uniform the entire time, regardless of whether or not the guy wins a title, right? Like, trying to think of like beloved guys that just never ended up winning a title in a certain jersey. Like, Reggie Miller, for the Indiana Pacers. Like,
I was going to say, I mean, a now disgraced guy, but like Karl Malone or John Stockton, those guys stayed in Utah, for their, well, that's not true. Karl Malone, at the end, he did end up in the Lakers, of course. So we'll pick John Stockton instead. But yeah, like guys like them, it's that again, that's just what adds like to this. And I don't know, like, part of it also for me is that it's the freaking Lakers. Like, that's the part that, again, I've already mentioned conspiracy theories. I won't mention the conspiracy theory again, but like,
why not? Why not? It makes so much sense.
It does.
In a period of time, and we're going to talk about the Magic here in a few minutes, but in a period of time where it feels like nothing makes sense and we can't find any legitimate reason, collusion and the like NBA ratings and trying to uplift the Lakers for the next 10 years, I have heard crazier theories in my day.
Yeah, and because the Lakers are sitting there until whenever this deal was discussed. Before that, they're sitting here going, okay, so AD's 30, LeBron is 40. Crap, what are we going to do when these guys are done? Because we gave up a lot of crap to get these guys. I mean, yeah, we got Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect. Is that our future? Like, they're sitting there like, oh crap. And then all of a sudden, walks in Nico Harrison. Here, let me hand you the next generation of Laker lore. And he hands you Luka Doncic. And now all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what? Not so bad. We'll let LeBron retire. And then, look, we got this Luka guy still here.
Not to mention that Nico Harrison has like a ton of history with LeBron James and Rich Paul. And, yeah.
A ton of history, which we'll save that for another day. But unless Jonathan, Luka does not re-sign there, which would be very interesting. Very unlikely. I do not see a world in which that happens, right? Like you don't get dealt to the Lakers and are guaranteed, hey, you're the next face of the Lakers, and you just walk away from that, right? Like that doesn't happen in this league. But until pen is to paper, it's still a possibility, which would be very interesting. So
the Lakers don't lose guys. Like they just right. don't. They never have. It's so crazy that like during the twilight of Kobe's career, how dysfunctional and how terribly run that organization was, and then they just trip into LeBron James, Anthony Davis, win another title, and then in the twilight of LeBron's career, and you're kind of questioning if you can give Anthony Davis, the keys to the franchise, and now you have Luka Doncic. Like as much as I really don't want to see the Lakers win another title, the funniest possible outcome in this is Luka takes this, gets in the best shape of his life, and goes on to win like 2 or 3 titles for the Lakers. And I mean, that would really suck for Mavericks fans, but man, I almost think they want it to play out that way so that they can say, look, we were right. This ownership group, Nico Harrison, you all have no idea what you're doing, and now we just get to hate the Mavericks for the rest of our lives. Like what's done is already done. At least hating the team for the rest of your life may make you feel a little bit better. And knowing that everybody was right and you guys were wrong, and it was so obvious that you all were wrong, and having like to really see those consequences play out, I have to think would at least be a little bit satisfying.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though it would hurt like crazy.
I agree. The other part of this, as a neutral in this conversation, meaning not a Lakers fan, not a Mavs fan, I can't decide if I want both these teams to lose in the first round because I hate the Lakers, and I want the Mavericks to really, the Maverick front office to reap what they sow, right? I'd love to see them both go out in the first round. Or the neutral in me, which I'm playing right into the NBA's hands right here, a Lakers Mavericks Western Conference final this year? Are you kidding? That would be electric. That would be
why do you think
drama.
Adam Silver let this all happen?
That's what I'm saying. I'm playing right into their hands. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think either team is probably good enough to do that. Because we sit here and talk about the Lakers' future. The Lakers' present has a lot of question marks, right? I think they have to make another move because, they were running AD without a real center, and now AD's gone. And so...
you don't like Jackson Hayes?
You heard what I said. I'm sticking to it. So anyway, the present for the Lakers is not that great.
LeBron James is tweeting about the Weeknd's new album right now. Like, bro.
Well, yeah, the Grammys are on, man.
Read the room, man.
I know. But anyway, yeah, it's really, really wild. And I know that I did see that the last Wednesday of the regular season, Lakers at Mavs. I think it's April 9th, that Wednesday.
That's going to be brutal.
It was already scheduled for ESPN, so lucky them. That's going to be must-see TV. Luka returns to Dallas, but in the gold and purple of the Lakers. It's good grief. I can't really believe it. And the last thing I'll say is this. Like, as wacky and stupid as all of this is why I think the NBA is the best sport on the planet, because of the drama like this. Like, you don't get this in the NFL. You don't
get this in anything.
You don't get this
in the transfer portal, Kevin. You don't get this in the transfer portal.
This is just electric, man, and I freaking love it. I hate it, but I love it at the same time.
Yeah. The other thing is, like, think of all the other GMs around the league reading that trade like that's all they gave up for Luka, or that's the offer that you accepted, thinking of, 3 or 4 scenarios that they probably could have put together that could have, rivaled that, that could have set you up in the short term and in the long term with, an all-star and a young player and 5 future first round picks and all that kind of crazy stuff. And then another thing, go ahead, Kev, because I've got one last point.
I was just going to say, yeah, you're right. All 29 teams would have lined up. They would have lined, if they said Luka's for sale, every team would have put in an offer. I'm kind of curious what your offer would have been for the Orlando Magic. What would you have offered?
No, we're not doing that.
Okay,
we're not
all right,
doing
all
that.
right.
We're not doing that. Nope. No, we're not doing that.
So every
now,
team got it.
To that point, I have seen a lot of Magic fans be like, why didn't the Magic try to trade for Luka? Like,
oh my gosh.
Nobody had a chance. Nico Harrison went to Rob Pelinka and said, I am giving you this offer here. And literally nobody had a chance. It is just the most bizarre thing in the entire world. And I don't know that I will ever like feel okay about what happened.
Yeah.
I do think my favorite, like if we're in the multiverse, right? And Doctor Strange is holding up the one finger, like the most awesome, most perfect thing that could happen from this point in time is Adam Silver going, wait, time out here. We're doing a full, like we're getting the FBI, the CIA, we're getting everybody involved to investigate this deal. And then to find out that, yes, there was some type of collusion from Nico Harris and Nike and the Lakers and everything like that. He gets thrown in prison because he deserves it for making a deal like this. The ownership, like the Mavericks ownership is forced to sell the team for their hand in this. Anthony Davis goes back to the Lakers. Now the Lakers have a mad Anthony Davis. And Luka Doncic gets to go back to the Mavericks with new owners, without Nico Harrison, and then all the Mavs fans will rejoice and be happy. That's not going to happen, but to me, that would be the most incredible, most hilarious, awesome thing that could ever happen.
Wild.
Wild.
Do you have anything else about this trade? Because I also kind of want to talk about the other trade that happened.
Well,
briefly.
I think
not nearly as long.
Yeah, we need to talk about the other trade because I know there were a lot of Magic fans that had interest in both of the players, the main players that were included in that deal.
Yeah. So Sunday night, right before we started recording, we got news of a 3-way deal. De'Aaron Fox on his way to San Antonio. Hold that thought. We'll come back to that. The other big player in this is Zach Lavine going from the Bulls to Sacramento. So that's the 3-team deal. Spurs, Kings, Bulls. Spurs receive De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. Kings receive Zach Lavine, Saidi Sissoko, 3 first-round picks, and 3 second-round picks. They got more picks than the Mavs got for Luka, just saying. And then the Bulls receive Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick from San Antonio. So that's the full deal. Not surprising that De'Aaron Fox is on the move. We've heard some rumblings about that of late. Some people surprised that it's San Antonio, although we had already seen reports that De'Aaron Fox had pretty much handpicked San Antonio as a team he wanted to go to. But I know a lot of Magic fans were interested in maybe acquiring De'Aaron Fox to help alleviate some of the Magic's guard offensive issues. But yeah, and then Zach Lavine to the Kings is very interesting, especially because the Magic, as I say this out loud, I'm remembering the Magic play the Kings on Wednesday, play in Sacramento. That could be Zach Lavine's Sacramento debut. Who knows? But that's the other trade. Very interesting. What were your thoughts on that deal?
Yeah, they play Sacramento on Wednesday and San Antonio at home, but against San Antonio on Saturday.
Yeah.
A few thoughts initially. Zach Lavine headed to the Kings to be paired with DeMar DeRozan, which I don't know why the Kings have watched the Bulls for the last few years and said, you know what, those are the two guys that we need to put on the same team. The Bulls getting their own pick for this year back is huge. I think the only thing really left for them do they hold on to a guy like Kobe White? Did they move on from Vooch at this point? And then the return that the Kings got for De'Aaron Fox, I think is basically like the best thing that you really could expect. All-star level player, 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks. Like, you're really probably not going to be able to do much better than that when a guy says that he wants out and you really don't have a ton of leverage at that point. And also says, oh, by the way, I only want to go to this one team. For a team in the Kings that basically had no leverage in these negotiations, that's about as good of a return as you are possibly going to get. Spurs, De'Aaron Fox, and Victor Wembanyama. Spurs are going to get really good really quickly, especially, they were able to hold on to Stephon Castle, still have Chris Paul there. But from a Magic perspective, I didn't want Zach Lavine just because of his injury history and the amount of money that he's being paid. And I didn't think that if you're going all in on a third guy, I didn't think it should be Zach Lavine. And then really the same thing for De'Aaron Fox. I just going in on a max guy at this point, or a guy who is going to garner the max when he gets an extension next summer, or I guess a year and a half from now in Fox's case, it just never felt like the right guy to make the move for. Now, hey, if you're pairing Luka Doncic with Franz and Paolo and you can make that happen, you move heaven and earth to do that. These guys are not that caliber of player. So I know there are Magic fans who are upset that right now, seemingly, the Magic are just kind of sitting on their hands, but half the league has not really made a move this week, right? There are a lot of teams that are just kind of sitting and waiting. Nobody knew that trade was happening, but I think that's the Luka trade, at least, that's going to light a fire underneath these teams to get active. This is another big domino that was waiting to fall. I think the Jimmy Butler trade will probably come in the next couple of days. Yeah. Who knows? But they're big moves like this, teams are waiting to see what is going to happen and what dominoes are going to fall where before they start really pushing buttons and pulling levers. So, I know there are Magic fans that are upset. Only thing that I would say is, come Thursday evening, deadline passes, the Magic haven't done anything. Yes, you have every right to be mad because they do need to make a move, and Kevin and I will talk about that. But we're not to that point just yet, so put down the pitchforks for another few days.
Yeah, got a lot of time. I think you're right. I think the dominoes will start to fall. I mean, they already have, but I think the Luka trade, like you said, might light a fire in some. But I think, honestly, this trade tonight, Kings, Bulls, Spurs deal, I think maybe could light some other fires. For example, I mean, Chicago, they've dealt Zach Lavine. Are they going full fire sale, right? Like, are they gonna deal Vooch? Are they gonna deal Kobe White? Is a guy
Bring me Kobe White.
I was about to say, a lot of Magic fans.
If he becomes available, I'm all in on a Kobe White move.
Kobe White off the bench for this team would be quite literally a match made in heaven, right? Like, I think instant offense off the bench would be huge for this team. So is that a guy that's potentially up for grabs for Chicago? Who knows? It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. But yeah, we still got a long way to go. That's the crazy part. Like, this stuff happens Saturday and Sunday. We have until Thursday at 3 p.m., 6 p.m., something like that. So a long, long way to go until this thing's done.
Talking about the Magic, obviously there have been 2 games played since our last episode. Thursday in Portland, where you lose 119-90, and then Saturday in Utah, you lose 113-99. And the game wasn't even really that close until the last couple of minutes. Like, the Magic were down by 20 plus for the better part of that second half at least. I don't feel the need, Kevin, to go into either of these games with a ton of detail, because it's the same story that we have now seen for the last 2.5, 3 weeks with the Magic. Yep. The life and the energy from this team is completely gone. Watching the Portland game especially, like going into the Utah game, knowing we didn't have Jalen, knowing we didn't have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and just knowing the way that we've looked recently, I kind of expected Saturday to go that way. I'm just right now where we are with this team is this is what I'm going to expect from them until we see a significant change. Because the belief that I had that this team can just sort of like snap out of this is gone now that you've lost 9 out of your last 10 games, I believe, or 8 out of your last 10, somewhere around there. And just watching this team night after night, it's just so incredibly obvious that they're either just completely out of gas. They played too hard through the first 50 games of the season. They desperately need the All-Star break. Everyone on this team is either sick or injured, something like that. Franz is not yet all the way back, although he looks pretty good in a couple of these games. Paolo obviously not all the way back yet. No Jalen. Goga's just getting reintegrated into the lineup. Gary Harris is getting reintegrated to the lineup. You can't shoot. Like, all of these things that are going on, I can't point to one thing and say, this is what the Magic need to do. This is the fix. But the feeling of like helplessness and despair and apathy watching these games, it's like, okay, if they don't seem to care that much, which I know they do, but that's not being put on display right now that they care. When you're watching these, like the eye test would tell you that maybe they don't. So those are the emotions that are seeping in. Like I texted you like, hey, I'm watching this game, but like, please forgive me if I'm not super locked into every single play that's going on, because it's just, you can see it happening in real time as the lead gets to 7 and then 13 and then 18 and then 19 and then 25 and whatever in some of these games. You see it coming before it happens, and it just feels like this is where we are right now. And as we approach the deadline on Thursday, I don't know what the move is, because it's not like, oh, this one guy is just struggling or blah, blah, blah. If we could just fix this one thing, like everything would be better. Right now, it's the defense, it's the energy, it's the focus, it's the shooting, it's the free throw shooting, it's defending without fouling. Like it is everything. Like this team just seems like there is a virus amongst it right now that needs to be cleansed in some way. Is it guys are hearing their names come up in trade discussions? I think part of it right now is they've played so badly the last few weeks with the trade deadline coming up. The writing is on the wall that they have to do something, and the end of this group as we know it is very quickly coming to an end. I don't know if that is taking a toll on the team, but Kevin, I will say, dude, like I do not want to come on here and record a pod after the deadline if this team has done nothing. It is not going to be pretty, and I think it would be a pretty significant misstep if this team did not shake things up ahead of the deadline on Thursday.
I agree, and some Magic fans will sit here and say, "Well, guys, like it's been a rough few weeks, but think about the first 2-3 months of the season before that, right?" The problem I have is the issues that this team is having right now. Some of them are new, right? The whole energy thing, the intensity, I think all of that's new. I think a lot of different things could be attributed to that. I think health is part of that. I think the schedule is part of that. I think missing Jalen Suggs is part of that. I think all those things. The other issues with this team right now are the same issues that this team won in spite of during that stretch, right? Like the woeful shooting, the total lack of organization and initiation on offense, right? This team won in spite of those things in the first couple months of the season. It's not like these are new problems, and it's not like, guys, slow down. This is new. No, this is a problem that dates to last season and beyond, right? And so that's where I agree. I think it's time to shake things up. I would love more than anything to, like, Kobe White is a perfect example. I want someone to come off the bench and get us 15 a night, like average, right? Like we need an electric 6-man that can jumpstart the offense on the second unit, and at sometimes even play with the first unit, depending on matchups and whatever. I think that's what this team needs. Do I think this team needs a true shakeup where we need to get rid of some cornerstone guys? We need to change the starting lineup. We need to do. I don't think I need that much, but I do think there is a lot of dead weight on this team that could potentially be consolidated for people that can contribute towards winning. And so I'm with you. I'm ready for Thursday. And yeah, we'll see if something actually happens.
In order to make like significant moves, like one, you're going to have to aggregate contracts and put like ship guys off together in order to like get, like if you're trading for a Cam Johnson or whatever, it's kind of hard to find a trade that works for both teams without multiple guys being sent out together and, probably, a pick, in a deal like that. I would not be shocked if we see like 3 to 4 guys shipped out in order to bring in 2 guys, or 2 to 3 guys shipped out in order to bring in 1 guy to make like a significant upgrade. I think I'm good with the starting lineup, at least for the rest of the year, if we're healthy, right? Like that's the big caveat, of course, but Jalen, KCP, Franz, Paolo, Goga. I'm good if that's our starting lineup throughout the rest of the year, but it's pretty obvious that this team needs a shakeup, needs a spark, needs somebody who can contribute in a real way offensively. Now, like, do you lose a little bit of defense? at this point, I'm probably okay with sacrificing a little bit of defense. Not the defense that we've seen for the past couple of weeks, ranking towards, the bottom half of the league. But the defense that was number 2 and number 3, throughout the first couple of months of the season. As long as you're able to stay, top 5 to top 10 defensively, and you can add some offense to this team and add some shooting to this team, I'm 100% on board for that. Now, people that were saying, well, you guys were fine, not making a deal until next season. If we go back to our conversations from the beginning of the year, sure, that was true then, but the dynamic of this team has very obviously changed. This team doesn't look anything like the team that we saw in November and the beginning part of December in terms of the way that they were competing and defending and fighting in games. Like, the fight just seems completely gone from this team. And I, again, dumbfounded as to how we've gotten to this point. I don't have an answer for that. But yeah, we were going to go into this offseason expecting some major significant changes. And this recent stretch has just kind of like sped that up. And people are making the point right now is, hey, Wemby's been in the NBA for 15, 16 months. The Kings have already the Spurs, have already realized that they need to make a big needle moving move to put next to Wemby. And hey, we've got Paolo, we've got Franz, and we've got Jalen, we've got some of these other guys. Like, we need to show them that, hey, things aren't going right, but we're going to make moves to improve the situation. Because if you just stick with this the rest of the year, let's say the bottom falls out and you get, you're in the play-in and maybe you don't even make the playoffs. Who knows the way that this team is playing right now? I will have very little optimism heading into the offseason. Where if you can sort of salvage this year and still accomplish some of the things, maybe you don't get home court advantage, but if you can make it to the second round, all of a sudden sort of all is forgiven and we're back to being, really, and we are still really high on this team, but it's hard to not feel at least a little bit differently about this team than you felt about it a month ago when we were just saying, oh, we just need guys back.
Yeah. And it also comes part of the reason why I feel the way that I do is because this team, it's not like, oh, we're just losing these games. Just a couple things bounce our way, we'll win that. This team is getting blown out almost every night. Yeah, we had the nice win against Detroit on Saturday, but outside of that, it's just been beat down after beat down, mostly against really bad basketball teams. And so that's the part where I go, oh, crap, what is this team? And the other part of it is it only gets harder. Like this week, it's Golden State, Sacramento, Denver, on the road, and then I think you said, it's home against San Antonio after that. It's a tough week. And so it doesn't get any easier. We've talked about before, our schedule right around the All-Star break is very favorable. It's a stretch the Magic have to take advantage of, especially considering the last couple weeks. I'd like to think that the current roster would be able to take care of that stretch, but I thought the current roster would be able to take care of the last week and a half, and they haven't. So, I think a shakeup is needed. And I will be disappointed if something doesn't happen by Thursday night.
And a game against San Antonio where a month ago, we're like, hey, if we get everybody back, you could kind of talk yourself into that being a win, pretty realistically. Now you have Wemby and De'Aaron Fox coming to town and your team has been playing really bad basketball. Again, we're, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So yeah, 8 out of your last 9, that could quickly become 12 out of your last 13, in this stretch here. And then you're probably in the play-in at that point. Well, luckily, the Bulls seem like they're going to be blowing up, so they're probably going to slide a little bit, but that'll pop, Philadelphia up into the play-in. Pretty certain that's going to happen. And yeah, again, people are upset. I understand, people are tired of being patient, but we're not saying, hey, be patient for another 4 months. We're saying be patient for another 3-4 days. And then, yes, I'll be right there with you. If a move has not been made by Thursday, I think we have to have, a conversation of like, what are we doing? What's the point in all of this?
Yeah.
Is there any doubt in your mind that a deal gets made by Thursday?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I have a ton of doubt. That's the hard part.
Really?
I
as crazy as it sounds, to me, it's so obvious that a change is necessary. I will be surprised if a move is not made. I don't know how you watch this team and think that a move is not necessary.
That's Weltman. Like he's the most unpredictable guy. He's obviously very mysterious. Doesn't show off his cards, and a coin flip maybe. Like that's how I feel. I don't know. I think he can look at our situation and blame injuries and sickness and all those things, and I think he could. I think he could do that, and that wouldn't surprise me. So I'm a coin flip if it happens or not. I hope it does, but I can't sit here and say that I'm confident that it will.
Yeah, I just you can hold on to your cards for only so long until you realize like, hey, like I may not be able to play these cards, pretty soon if we just kind of, those cards may not be what they were worth previously if you don't make some moves in, you still have the Denver first round pick, you have your own first round pick, you have all of your future first round picks. So there's a lot of assets that we could use to make a move like that, whether it's a Kobe White or a Cam Johnson or hey, Malik Monk. It kind of seems like the Kings are just retooling a little bit, with Zach Lavine going there, but did they decide, hey, we're also going to move Malik Monk and continue to shake this up a little bit? I don't know, but I'm looking forward to Thursday. I hope something gets done. I genuinely don't know how this fan base will survive beyond the deadline if something isn't happening. And another thing, sort of the last thing that I have here is it's so odd to me, like the level of confidence that this team still has when you hear them in these post-game pressers of like, oh, like we're playing badly, but we're doing some good things. And I'm just like, where? Like you're doing good things for like 5-6 minute spurts, but like the games are 48 minutes and you're getting blown out and you're getting punked like by teams that you should be able to beat. Like you should be able to beat Toronto and Portland, but you lose to them twice. And you should be able to beat Utah and you should be able to beat Miami without Jimmy Butler, and like it's just crazy. Like you should be a little bit more competitive with Milwaukee and with Boston, and we're not there. And this team just feels so far removed from what we expected, and is so far removed right now from what the standard of Magic basketball is. Unless they just believe that the 8 days that they're going to get off at the All-Star break is going to be enough time for guys to rest and be back, and everything will just be fine, which again, it's just a really bizarre thing if you talk yourself into that. I made a post game, I think it was after the Portland game, of just saying like, unless you're so close to this team and you see things that other people don't and you're privy to information that other people don't have, it's very hard to believe that anybody could be okay with just riding this team out the way that they've played the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if you do, you're just looking back at last season. You're saying, hey, this is basically the same team. This team won 47 games. This team took the Cavs to 7 games. Could have won that series and gone to the second round. That's the only way you can justify that, if you ask me, right? And I don't agree with it, because I think that team was very flawed. I've said maybe controversially, I thought that team definitely overachieved last year.
They were winning in spite of their flaws.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. And that's what we did to start this season too. Like there's a reason why all those wins were considered miracles, right? It's because in spite of all the flaws, and obviously you add into that in spite of injuries, this team found a way. And that, I don't mean this as a pun, but like that quote unquote magic has completely faded away. It's completely gone. And now what are we left with? Well, we're left with the team that we have. The whole we are who we thought they were, like we are who on paper we thought we were, right? And so, yeah, I think that's the only way someone can justify it, and I don't think that's good enough. Best
case scenario, I think, is like you get back to your winning ways of last year, right? Like is this team going to outplay a 47-win pace over the course of the last 32 games? Probably not, given what we've seen. And that team, again, 57.3% winning percentage gave them 47 wins. With 32 games left, like, you're looking at what, like 17, 18 wins over the last 32 at that pace, which would put you at 42 wins, which last year would still put you in the play-in. Like, this team needs to outperform all of their overperforming from last year. Yep. If they and the dynamics of the Eastern Conference are a little bit different. You're probably not going to need 46 wins to be the 7th or 8th seed, or you're not going to need 48 wins to maybe be the 5 seed or the 6 seed, whatever. But again, like, we're all sitting here, we're all saying the same thing, and it kind of it's interesting the parallels between the situation that we're in right now and in the Luka Doncic trade, where the entire world is saying, hey, you are so wrong in doing this. And one guy's like, no, I'm right. Where the whole world right now, not just Magic fans, like people around the league are saying, hey, something's up with the Magic. Something there finally needs to change. And if this front office is just like, hey, no, we're the ones that are right, and they just stand pat, to me, that'll be pretty interesting and unfortunate. And I will be anxiously awaiting to see if the Magic do anything.
If you and I, so it's a little tricky because the Magic play on Thursday. They play against the Denver Nuggets. But if you and I aren't doing some sort of like trade deadline reaction on Thursday, I'll be pretty disappointed. Yeah.
If we haven't, I have to believe that the trade happened on Wednesday, and we talked about it Wednesday night.
Oh, I like that. There you go. That's good.
Maybe.
Let's hope so.
Who knows? I mean, if Luka Doncic can be traded on a Saturday night ahead of the deadline, the Magic can make a Wednesday afternoon trade ahead of the deadline, right? This is the last thing that I want to ask you. Does this change at all your opinion of like what untouchable means? Because to me, like Luka, Giannis, Jokic are like 3 of the most untouchables that could exist. And we just saw one get dealt for, pennies on the dollar.
No, it does not change. For me, this is a situation of 1 or 2 lunatics who just happen to run a basketball team, and or 1 or 2 criminals that just happen to run a basketball team. I still don't know which one is right, but those are the only 2 options. They're either crazy or they're corrupt. You can trademark that. So I no, it doesn't change that for me. Anyone in their right mind still considers all of those guys untradeable, untouchable, would pay them whatever dollar amount their Supermax requires. And so, no, it doesn't change that for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, Kev, anything else before we close this one?
Yeah, we got to do the week ahead. It's Monday.
Do we have to do that?
We have to. Monday night at Golden State, Wednesday at Sacramento, Thursday at Denver, Saturday against the San Antonio Spurs. I think it is Saturday, right? I'm getting that right. It's not Sunday.
It is Saturday.
Yeah, of course, because we don't get an extra day of rest after coming back from the West Coast trip, of course. Yeah, so, you go first this time. What do you think with those 3 road games, 1 home game? Oh, no.
I'm going to say 0-4, man.
What?
Like, this team has broken my spirit, and I don't have any reason to believe that they're just going to snap out of it.
Wow.
I genuinely don't.
That's
if we should have Jalen back, and that's like the one, like going back to the Detroit game, I guess that's the saving grace, is that like Jalen Suggs may just be like the shot of adrenaline. Jalen Suggs may be like the epinephrine to the anaphylaxis that this team has been suffering through the last few weeks. If Jalen is back and Jalen is healthy, I'll say 2-2. I think you beat Golden State. I think, man, I don't know, because deals could be made in the middle of this. I think you beat Golden State. You lose to Sacramento. You lose in Denver. You win at home against San Antonio. I'll say 2-2. That is taking into consideration Jalen Suggs being healthy. You don't have guys on Wednesday because you've made a deal. Thursday, the second night of a back-to-back, and it's your first game playing with some of these guys. And then you get a big win over a new-look San Antonio Spurs on Saturday. I'll say 2-2.
Wow. Yeah, that
a lot of moving parts here.
A lot of ifs there. I was also going to go 2-2. I can't decide which of the wins. I'm picking Wednesday. I think the Magic will beat the Kings on Wednesday. I'm probably going to pick them to lose against Golden State and beat San Antonio. Maybe. I don't know. The Golden State game and the San Antonio game are the ones that I'm thinking about. Surely we're not going to win on. You know what will be the most Orlando Magic thing ever? If we're on this horrible run. No. Horrible run. We lose Monday, we lose Wednesday, and we beat the Denver Nuggets on the second night of a back-to-back in Denver. Like, that would just be the most Orlando Magic thing ever.
After we've made a trade and we only have like 8 guys available.
Exactly. But I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to say 2-2. I'm officially going to lock in the Warriors. And no, I can't. I'm going to do Kings. I'm going to do Kings Spurs. That's what I'm going to pick. Kings Spurs is my 2 wins. But yeah, I mean, if we make a trade, who the heck knows? Who the heck knows who's available, who's not available? I don't know. But that's my pick for now.
Well, if anything crazy happens before Wednesday, we'll be back.
Yeah.
And then if anything crazy happens after Wednesday, obviously there will be another episode on Thursday regardless. But if a deal happens on Thursday, then obviously we'll put out an episode that night as well. So,
yeah, well,
all right, that's going to wrap.
I was going to say, sorry. We haven't really talked about this because the Magic play Thursday. We might just lump that in as like a live,
correct,
post-game live trade deadline reaction type thing. I don't know. We'll see. If something really, really crazy happens, we might get on before the game, honestly. Like if it's a big, because the game doesn't start till 9, we might do a live show.
The Lakers decide they're having second thoughts about Luka and want to flip him real quick.
Just flip Luka real fast. Yeah.
Hey, anything is possible at this point.
I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, we'll talk to you guys definitely.
Like real fast. Think about it. If you're like, you ever see the videos of people going to yard sales and they find something really valuable for cheap and then they flip it?
Yes.
You trade Anthony Davis in a first round pick and all of a sudden you trade Luka Doncic for like, I don't know, 2 other all-stars and 5 first round picks. Something crazy happens. Like, I don't know. Anything is possible at this point. I'm
you just
thoroughly
keep
convinced.
Luka. You just keep Luka for the next decade.
Probably okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to end this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!